Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 71. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation.
Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
And wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, medical intuitive and coherence coach. This show is in our growth series, and today's theme is investing in intimacy. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. How exciting! Intimacy! Woo! I mean, it snakes in through a lot of what we do, but oh, how exciting to talk about intimacy. And for me, intimacy is connection or bonding or what we call love that's real for our bodies, real in our lives, real, not theoretical. So, woohoo, look out, strap on, here we go.
And it's a great follow-up to our last show, which was about oxytocin. And with regard to oxytocin, we mentioned that being with the person that you are you have a special relationship with, hugging them, kissing them, whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent, it spikes your oxytocin levels. So we're going to talk today about how to develop and keep relationships intimate so that your oxytocin levels can stay high too.
Yes. Yes. And, when we're first in relationship, if it's like a pair bonding or whatever, we have that new relationship energy, which I think we've talked about, that has us like take, be more open kimono, have us take down what we tend to protect ourselves with and actually bond with each other. Like there's chemicals that do that. You could probably talk about them. And then, but also with children, there's that intimacy, and with new friends or a new social group, there tends to be like all this bonding that happens. The beginnings are very powerful. Mm-hmm. How do we keep it going?
I want to mention that in beginnings, most people don't notice, but there's a lot of time spent focusing on the other individual. So there is an openness. We sort of set ourselves behind or aside, and we're more objective with regard to ourselves. And so we are seeing the other person. We're spending time focusing on them, what they like, what they do. And that's a very different place to be, because that's the part that wears off as the relationship develops. And what happens? We start bringing our own needs to the forefront. We focus on what we're not getting. And that's a total shift. That's a total turnaround, which directly affects the level of intimacy we experience.
Oh, very much. Very much. Yeah. So, yeah. And in the beginning, part of it is we're fresh. We're like, who is this person? Who is this group? What is it about? What's going on here? Like there's all this curiosity and learning. And after a while, we just take it for granted. I know who these people are. I know who this person is. And we stop really paying attention. And I've talked about this, how Michael and I, we kind of mean to be like, wake up every day being like, well, who are you? Because it really helps. It's like, it helps pay attention to who they are now, because we're all evolving. We're all growing. That's the point of this part of the series. And we're just not the same as we were yesterday or last week.
Yeah, we're not the same. And in the early bonding, there seems to be a lot more grace given to like little flaws or mistakes, or right. They don't get under our skin the same way that it can later in a relationship.
Yeah. So these are the things we're circling around today. And is there something specific you want to start with, Dawn?
Well, just that human bonding, the words human bonding, it's developed with specific feelings. And those feelings that they point to are affection and trust. Oh, strong words.
Yes.
So, they just kind of say, oh, people who spend time together form bonds. But it's important to understand that the quality of the time people are spending together is an indicator of whether or not they're building affection, whether or not they're developing trust, or I should say developing affection and building trust, right? It's both.
Mm-hmm.
And so in early relationships, like we mentioned, because of this openness and curiosity, the ability to develop affection and trust seems to be heightened. And there's a huge amount of growth and development in a short period of time, kind of like a baby, right? From 0 to 1, there's a huge change that happens. And that's what can happen in relationships. And if the relationship is intimate, you develop all of this intimacy, and then you tell your parents about it, and your parents are like, what? You've only known each other for 6 months. But because of the quality of the time and all the things you've been doing together, you have developed a huge affection and trust. Mm-hmm. And the parents who may not have been involved in that, they don't sense it. They don't recognize it.
They're just like, oh, you don't even know this person. Why are you acting like you're so close?
Yes. Yeah. When you can really be very close.
Yes. Yeah. For me, one of the important parts of this conversation is allowing the trust within us. We probably talked about this kind of thing, the trust within us to grow, the affection and affinity within us to grow, because that makes me more comfortable. It has me be more safe to be vulnerable. So like the children who are raised with a lot of affection and a lot of trust bring that to the table already and can easily bond going forward. And then those of us who had less, that it's useful to build that up within us in our relationship with heaven and earth, in relationship with ourselves, so that we don't come so hungry. Because maybe at first that might be interesting, but if, like you were saying, like people are coming to the relationship to get, if we're both coming to get, then who's giving?
That's a great question.
Whereas if I'm full and overflowing, I can give, and yes, I receive, but there's plenty of food on the table.
And when you come to a relationship from full and overflowing, then things like fear are less likely to crop up in such a way that breaks the bond.
So like for me, I have all these little things about dating. I really want to write a book called Find a Mate Without Having to Date.
Find a mate without a date.
Right, because dating that. But but from my perspective, like showing up as me is the most important thing to do, is authentically, because then whoever I'm attracting is attracted to actually me. Whereas if I'm like, pretending to be somebody else or a better version of me, then they're buying something that's not real.
Yes.
And then they don't actually choose me. So anyway, to do that though, it takes to be able to be full and overflowing, because otherwise it's too vulnerable, because the very things that it helps me to show, the right people will be attracted. Like I'll be vulnerable. I was always like, I always made it so, because this is just who I am. Like, oh, well, let's go camping and you have to pee in the woods or whatever. Like right? Like let's just be natural. Cause like, that's how I live. I have to pee in the woods. I'm always in the woods. And I always have to be. So like there are people who are like repulsed by this.
Mm.
And
they
like
would
they're not
fit.
good partners.
Yeah.
Hi, bye. Right. And there's people who are like, well, of course. They're good partners. So it's just an obvious example. Right.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
but if that takes me being willing to be me,
Mm-hmm.
not just in the beginning, but throughout, and then 5 years later, the same thing's happening. I feel like this is such an important thing for us to show up for our children, not needy, for us to show up in our
Yes.
friendships. They say to get a friend, be a friend. Well, how do I be a friend? I have to come full. I have to have something
Yes.
to share. So, yeah.
And you mentioned going to the woods and behaviors there and that being acceptable. And there are other things that are that people recognize, one's willingness to have children or a choice not to have children.
Yeah.
That comes up in relationships. And
Yes.
sometimes when you're with a person and you want children, I've been in this situation, I wanted children and I was with a person who did not.
Yeah.
And that was tough.
Yes.
I had to move on from that relationship.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to.
Right. Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I feel like it's really important, to have these conversations early and often in the beginning of relationships, not just with pair bonding, not just with partners, but with whoever,
Yes.
to be just real. And because you know what, people who show up and who are themselves are very attractive. I find, even if I don't agree with them, I find they're very attractive.
Yeah.
And so it's a thing that works. Yeah. And who are willing to give too.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about sort of the beginning of relationships, being who you are. And I just want to point out that a lot of us are in relationship and we've been in relationship. And so we're talking about how to bring oxytocin into a relationship that may be already established. Mm-hmm. And so being who you are is important, not putting on airs or something different. And over time, I found myself doing this over time, wanting to be the person they want me to be. The person they want me to be is to clean the toilet every day.
Every day?
Well, that ensures that it's clean.
Oh, yes.
And I'm not an everyday kind of clean the toilet person.
No. Yeah, so these little things get in our way.
Yes.
And it starts to build up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And seeing the truth of what it is, right? So looking at the fact that I'm not a clean the toilet every day kind of person, and being okay with that. And then identifying, what they want. Well, really what they want is the toilet clean, right? So then I can look to say, well, if I'm not an everyday kind of person, let's look to see what day the toilet appears not clean. And can I be that kind of person? Is it every 4 days? Is it every week? Right? Like, is it every 5 days? Can I be that kind of person? And then it's meeting my need to not clean it every day, but also meeting their need that it stays clean.
Yes.
And that's how I love my person. That's how I love my spouse.
And does that help? Does that help with more intimacy because there's not all that rah. So then there's more.
I heard a coach say recently, he wanted to kiss his wife and be intimate, and she was just like, I can't look at this place. So he was looking at her and she was looking at the environment. Mm-hmm. And my comment was, wow, so you must spend a lot of time cleaning house. Right? So the environment is okay for her to move forward and into that intimacy. But it's interesting because, he was making the point that there's direct or there's specific focus, and then there's diffuse attention, right? Diffuse focus. And I would say, yeah, I'm pretty diffuse. I'm diffuse in that there's a certain level of wanting to create an environment that is focused more on love and happiness than fastidious sweeping and cleaning and neatness.
Right.
And that's what I value.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone has their own values. So how do we come to terms in established relationships?
Mm-hmm.
I've been married for almost 19 years now. And, it's been how do we connect with this?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been kind enough to change a lot to accommodate me.
Mm-hmm. And vice versa, obviously.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. What I just keep seeing is there's a theory I heard through a mongo, which I'm a big fan of a mongo. It's the basic theory behind the Getting Love You Want books, Harville Hendrix. And that can be found, and they have a relatively new website. I think I've talked before, relatively new kind of website with a lot of giveaways, by the way. So if you look that up, Getting Love You Want. But anyway, mongo theory. One of the things that I saw illustrated in a training that I felt was very helpful is that, so at first in relationship, what happens, with pair bonding, is we come together, and in the beginning, like there's a overcoming the barriers. So there's a closeness that happens, and that subsides eventually, and there's a leaning out that happens. And then this space between us tends to stay the same. So sometimes people are like, oh, let's get closer. And the other person is, oh, let's get closer. And the other person's going like that. That's an experience people have. And then sometimes people have the experience of, oh, I need more space. And the other person follows. But what's interesting in this theory is that it's actually a space that's co-determined. And that if I, who am sometimes trying to get away, start coming closer, it's like the other person is going to start going away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very useful to understand this and be like, I and whoever have a natural moat between us. Am I willing to just micro go closer? Am I willing to overcome that in my own self? That whatever it is, that disturbance within me that keeps me wanting to have the space.
Right.
That for me, that's where the inner work is of intimacy, is to keep noticing, oh, look at that. I said that and he backed up. Oh, yeah, interesting. Oh, I did this and now I'm like, I don't want to be so close. Like what are the shadow stuff even going on for me that is keeping the relationship like this instead of like this? That I find is a very useful place to inquire. And not just with that, but with my friends and with my family and with children in my life. It's the same. And like, am I willing to inquire about it in myself? And am I willing to have some conversations with the other as well?
Mm-hmm.
What works for you? Is it okay to do this? Is it okay to talk about this? I don't know. I find that very helpful.
And to pay attention to the answer that you get when you ask those questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I know when we started talking about having this conversation, Dawn, you just were rattling off all kinds of great ideas that you have. Would you like to share some?
Oh, yeah. There are things that I think are really beneficial, especially if you've been in relationship for a little while and you want to experience the benefits of oxytocin and the oxytocin spikes, which allow you to feel deeply connected with those important people in your life. Mm-hmm. And one of them we mentioned, which is being honest with yourself and, honest with the other person. So honesty in who they are, who you are, and where you are in your relationship. That's really important because you can't move forward from over there. You can only move forward from here.
Yes.
So having an understanding of where that is really important. And another tip, which I think we hinted at, and we called it curiosity. So early in a relationship, we refer to it as curiosity. But then as the relationship develops, or there's time, water under the bridge, they now call it commitment to improving. And that's so drab, right? Commitment to improving. But I like the idea of curiosity and becoming curious and reinvigorating this curious way of being with another person. And it really sparks a newness. It sparks an interest, and it lights things up. It ignites relationships so beautifully. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to talk about curiosity a little further when we come back from a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hello, my name is Wendy R. Wolf from Graceful Soul Academy, and I'd really love it if you visited and played with us. Every Thursday we're getting together, building community, being real together, enjoying active meditation, and we are learning and we're growing and we're deepening together in our souls. Join us this month as we dive deeper into neutrality. What does that mean? Equanimity, finding balance within, and spiritual perspective, having clarity in ourselves and how we perceive the world. Thank you, and I really look forward to getting together and playing on Thursday night.
As a posture therapist, I'm qualified to pinpoint the cause of physical symptoms by realigning the body, and then it's the body that heals itself. When you are in a state of overwhelm, your mind is out of alignment with your values. As a coherence coach, I'm astute enough to identify the root causes and show you how to realign with what you value, and your mind can be whole. You can live by heart today.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com and download my free quick start guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. I'm really excited to be talking about intimacy and investing in intimacy, because over time, intimacy can dwindle a little bit. And so we were talking about bringing curiosity back into a relationship. And curiosity has an energy. And so when someone is curious, there is an interest. And with that interest is a focus of attention. Mm-hmm. And that's how we can renew our relationship. We can shift our attention off of ourselves and what we want and what we may not think we're getting, and shift it onto them and find out, oh, why do you think this? Or what is it that you purchased mm-hmm. recently that's in that box that I don't know what it is? You know, all these little things are really beneficial for shifting our focus. And you mentioned it beautifully, allowing them to feel special again.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, I know some people who like invest in the relationship, you know, it's like, and like, it's just like, it seems like work, and it seems like martyr a little bit. And that's not what curiosity is. There's something in it for me. It's jazzy. It's passionate. Like it adds to both of our wonderful experience. That's what I really like this conversation right here, because it's not just, oh, I just, I have to have dinner on Thursdays with this person because, it's good for the relationship. It's just like, not enrolled in that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just martyr.
It is.
But, and like, obviously it's not working because there's no passion. Like, how do we turn up the passion? And I'm not talking, none of this is about sex specifically. It includes it, but how do we turn up that passion? And curiosity is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, oxytocin is a chemical that helps people feel appreciated, helps them feel special, helps them feel the connection. And this is about connection. And when we live by heart, we are, I'll say, naturally connecting because we're coming into relationship already full. We're coming in already feeling safe, already feeling loved and accepted, already having value. And when we come as we are, like you mentioned, they're seeing who we are. They're obviously getting who we are because we're being seen and they're seeing us. And in that is a willingness to come together.
Yeah.
In the coming together, I also want to mention having regular touch points, I think, are important. And for me, touch points are, for example, if I have a break in my work, I'll make it a point to call my spouse or to reach out with a text or to go physically and say, how's it going? What's happening? And make it about him. And I also do that with my children. There are particular times of the day when I'll reach out to them. And, it might not be first thing in the morning. One of my children is less likely to interact first thing in the morning, and another child will interact first thing in the morning, right? And makes deep connections first thing in the morning. So meeting them where they're at helps build the connection rather than break it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Delicious.
Would you like to talk about some connection points you have? Because when I said, oh, first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening, you were just like,
yeah, honestly, I'll go out of my way. Like, when I want to, share passion or share celebration or share love or right. Like, I do it more by what's going on instead of like, I actually, my partner and I both avoid like doing things a certain, like that structure thing. It's not my thing. So it's just, we're opposites. Like, I want to do it when I have something to give or something to bring or something I'm excited about. And, or, check in what's going on with him. And another funny thing is, like, it doesn't work for us for me to, oh, you just had a important meeting, or you say, like, it doesn't work for me to be like, how'd it go? Like, that's my natural, how'd it go? Tell me what's going on, like, and he doesn't want it. He wants to wait till he wants to tell me. So it's like, I just can't, it's just different. And so that's the thing. Can we find the rhythms that work in a particular relationship? That's really important. And with particular children or friends or whatever.
That's really funny because that question, how did it go, is curiosity, and you're interested in him and what was happening. And it's also feeding you a little bit, right? So changing that, instead of saying, how did it go? Because that grates him, you might be able to say, oh, I hope it went well. So you're giving feedback, but not requiring a response from him. So I don't know what you do. Because it's an interesting dilemma that we find ourselves in. Wait a minute, this is an innocent question. Why can't you tell me how it went?
Yeah. And what I found, I mean, I've really, I've been watching this person for a long time. What I found is it's what I say to him kind of in jest is like, he won't shut up unless it's something important. He wants to talk about everything all the time, unless it's something where he likes to like sit with it and let it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. The very things that I want to know and care about. No, I can't know that. Just all this.
That's so interesting.
This crazy, theoretical, whatever stuff. So it's okay though. Like, I'm just like, all right, whatever. I'll know when I know. Yeah. So, but that's what love looks like.
Yeah.
Instead of being just like, well, I need to know because I need to, my list, and I need to know what we're doing, or I need to, right? Like, yes, but I just wait instead. And that's what love looks like.
Yes.
And letting him do what he does.
That's beautiful.
Whereas I guess we're concluding, whereas I, like, almost every day I come out of work with somebody and I'm dancing and singing, and celebrating, because I'm just like, I love my job. I love my job. And he laughs, and I do a little dance and he laughs. Right. So, like, I have that instant feedback of how it went.
That's wonderful. The last tip I want to mention is appreciating your partner, but not just appreciating them, because that is really an internal thing. It's an appreciation and then telling them. So there's a doing. And I'm reminded of one time you shared with us on the show that you were just doing your thing, and then suddenly he said to you, I love you, out of the clear blue. And so he was appreciating you and then telling you.
Yeah, which is very unusual, by the way.
Right? And it landed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, I come from, like, my mom, every time you talk, I love you at the end of the call. And I have some friends like that too, right? That's not how Michael is. So if he says he loves me, it's like a banner month. But he clearly loves me. He goes around doing all kinds of things. Everybody has a love language.
Yes, yes. But for him to express it verbally, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'd love to hear from people about what they experience and what this all feels like to them in their relationships, whatever relationships.
Thank you, Wendy. And this show went so quick.
I know.
I love talking about it. So if you're watching us live, please let us know. If you're watching the replay, just #replay. We want to hear from you. Tell us what's on your heart and leave us a comment. For more information about how you could live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our shows. We're here every Thursday at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always. Visit our website to view more episodes.